How's it going, everybody? I'm a little bit late to the party, but in this video I'm going to give my reaction to East vs West 17. I'll go through all the matches. Unfortunately, I was a little bit busy during the event, so I wasn't able to catch all of the matches. I did miss a few. I missed some key moments, so I guarantee there's going to be mistakes in this video. I'm not going to represent every match exactly how it happened, but I'll do my best. You'll have to let me know if I missed anything crucial in the comments. My general thoughts on the card are that it was a decent card. It wasn't incredibly exciting or dull. Some of the matches that I was hoping to see go one way went the other, and so obviously that plays a part in my perception of how good the card was. But I think overall it was decent. It was just an okay card. It was definitely not the best we've ever seen, but the venue was really nice. I thought they did a good job with the lighting. The camera angles seemed pretty good as well, and it definitely looked more professional than some of the events that have been done in the past. I did see that some people were unhappy with some audio issues. Again, I was kind of in and out through the entire event, so I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but these events do seem to be getting better and better. Each event obviously does have its problems, and this one had some as well, but I think in general we are on an upward trajectory, and even though this card wasn't a barn burner, I'm still excited for the cards moving forward. Alright, enough with the blabbering. The first match was Andrei versus Arsen Kachatrian. So Arsen won this 3-1, and this was a pretty convincing win by the end, even though he did get top rolled in round 2. He's got a very strong hook, he's got great cupping, and by the 4th round, it just didn't look like Andrei had anything for him, so good win for Arsen. Let's move on. So the second match was Cody versus Joseph Marento. This was a really good match, and a great comeback win for Joseph Marento. So Cody got the better of Joseph in the first 2 rounds. He was looking really strong in the hook and very fast as well, but Joseph was able to turn it around. I guess he's just got better endurance, so he ended up winning 3-2. Very good win for Joseph Marento, and I believe this would make him the #1 guy in the US at 77 kilograms on the right arm. Alright, next up we've got Hunter Knopfs versus Valen Lowe. This was also a 77 kg super match on the right arm, and this was also a very close match. It went 3-2 to Hunter Knopfs. Valen got the first 2 via top roll, I believe. This is one of those where I was kind of in and out. Didn't get to see what happened, but it looked like when Hunter was able to keep his elbow on the pad, he actually looked pretty decent and very strong in the hook. Hunter's got great speed, so I think if he just works on keeping his elbow down, he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. Alright, moving on to John Therian versus Craig Tullier. So round 1, John goes for the top roll. He kind of gets it and starts to do that thing where he kind of smiles at the crowd, celebrates like he's got it. He then turns into a hook to finish and gets finished. So this is something that John has done in the past where he gets a little bit too cocky while he's pulling, and it ends up biting him in the rear. Unfortunately, from that moment on, his luck only went downhill. Round 2, Craig hits him with that signature side pressure hook for the win, 2-0. And then in round 3, John loses on fouls, so 3-0 victory to Craig. I picked Craig to win, but I actually thought John looked pretty decent in round 1. And although a lot of people expected more from John, I think this is actually a pretty decent showing for him. And obviously, he's only going to get better from here on out. All right, next up we have probably the match of the night, Janis versus Mindaugas Terasitis. So this match was absolutely crazy. I picked Mindaugas to win, but honestly, after round 1, I thought it was all over for Mindaugas. I know they've both got great endurance, so when Janis beat him so convincingly in round 1, I thought for sure it was over. But of course, you can never count out the GOAT. I believe Mindaugas won round 2 via some side pressure hits without his wrist. And then in round 3, Janis kind of adjusted, and when he was top rolling, he kind of jutted his lower palm into the hand of Mindaugas so that he couldn't access that side pressure hit, and he was able to win round 3 that way. And again, after he did that, I thought, oh, there's just no way that Mindaugas comes back. But of course, he proved me wrong again. And in round 4, Mindaugas actually took Janis's hand, went sideways, and secured the win. So that was 2-2. Round 5, Mindaugas actually takes Janis's hand off the rip, but he can't pin him. Janis takes his hand back, and then Mindaugas goes back to those side pressure hits. And at that point, Janis's back pressure and his bicep were just so blown up. Mindaugas had been using a few different techniques, so instead of just gassing out one part of his arm like Janis was, he was using his shoulder, his bicep, his tricep, and in doing so, he didn't build up as much fatigue as Janis did. And so I think Mindaugas won this match mainly because because he was much more efficient with his pulling. And so congrats to Mindaugas for a great win. And once again, I think this was definitely match of the night. All right, next up we have Sarah Backman versus Jocylen Brisson. So this was a pretty convincing 3-0 victory for Jocylen. One thing that always annoys me is when competitors yank each other's arms while they're still in the straps. Jocylen did that a few times. I still have no idea why that's not at least a foul. But anyways, let's just put that aside. Round 1, Sarah got turned palm up immediately. I don't know if I'd call it a flash pin, but it was very close to being one. Round 2 was basically the same thing. Very easy top roll win for Jocylen. And then in round 3, Sarah was actually able to get the stop. She shot in for a hook, got the stop, and started making Jocylen a little bit nervous. Unfortunately, she did elbow foul, so they restarted. Sarah shoots in for the hook again, gets the stop, and it kind of turns into a war, but you could tell Sarah was redlining and gassing out way faster than Jocylen was. I think if Sarah hadn't lost on fouls, she would have lost anyways. Jocylen is just much bigger, much stronger, and I think if Sarah dropped down to weight class pulling, she could actually be very dominant, but unfortunately for her, I just don't think she has the frame to be able to beat the larger ladies. Alright, let's move on to Cody Merritt versus Evgeny Prudnik. So for this one, I predicted that Evgeny would win if he came in juiced up. In his last few matches, it's been looking like he's been off the juice, but I think he's back on. He had a very good showing here. He's got a great hook and a great press on his left arm. I believe in round 2, Cody was actually able to take Evgeny's hand, but there was an elbow foul, and then after that, Prudnik pressed him for the win. And then in round 3, he curls Cody into a hook and wins again, securing the match. So I was obviously hoping that Cody would pull this one off, but when Evgeny is in shape, he is up there with the best in the world, right or left-handed. All right, let's move on to Mindaugas Terasaitis versus Hunter Knopfs on the left arm. I don't think I even have to break this one down. Mindaugas won 3-0. It was not competitive at all. And this is just one of those matches where you get reminded that there are levels to this game. So let's move on. Matt Mask versus Kydyrgali Angerbayev. This was by far my favorite match of the night. Matt is one of my favorite pullers of all time. I've been wanting him to do better for years now. He did have a bit of a rough streak, but coming into this match, he did say that he's feeling better than he's felt in many years, and let me tell you, it did show. Now, unfortunately, because Matt beat Kydyrgali so badly, people are going to chalk it up to, well, Kydyrgali isn't 100%. He's coming back from a surgery, so this match doesn't mean that much after all. And while Kydyrgali may not have been 100%, he still wouldn't have come back if he didn't think he had a chance at winning. And in an interview that he did with Engen before the match, he did say that he was back to 100%. He was doing 100% of the weights that he could do before his surgery. So if you think Kydyrgali wasn't 100%, then you are disagreeing with Kydyrgali's own words. Either way, this was a really good showing for Matt, and after the match he called out Nugo Chikadze, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't see that match. Let's get that scheduled. Alright, moving on to Dave Chafee versus Georgi Svetkov. So this was the saddest match of the night for me by far. Dave Chafee lost 3-0, and I'll be honest, I didn't see at any point a lane for Dave to win this match. Dave still has really good side pressure, and he always has, but I think lately his hand has started to go, and it just seems like he loses his hand earlier and earlier in matches, especially now that he has this newfound flop wrist press. It almost seems like he's willing to give his hand up because he believes in his press. But guys, hot take here, maybe it's not so hot. I don't think Dave's press is very good, and whenever I see him resort to the press, I usually think he's probably losing the match, and this is just his last-ditch effort to offer some kind of offensive push. Whenever I see a guy like Hermes or Gennady get into a press, even though it's not necessarily their primary move, I always expect it to be effective, and for the most part, it is. But like I said, whenever I see Dave get into the press, it always seems like he's in a really rough spot, and man, just watching him press, it just doesn't look like there's that much power behind it when compared to other super heavyweights. So Georgi won this one 3-0. He called out Gennady Kvikvinia. That would be a great match. I would love to see that one. And honestly, I don't know where Dave Chafee goes from here. Maybe he waits for Denis Saplankov to come back. I would still be down to see that match. I think it might actually be close just because both of them have had so many injuries and they're both not in their prime anymore. So I think it would be a pretty good match just to keep them both relevant. But yeah, this one gutted me. I just hate to see Dave lose. Let's move on to Devon versus Corey West. So I, like many other people, thought this was going to be 3-0 domination in favor of Devon. But truthfully, it was actually pretty close, even though the score was 3-0 in favor of Devon. I missed round 1, but in round 2, Corey had Devon in a full Kings move, and unfortunately he lost that round on fouls, but I really wish the refs would have kept that one going because I think we were in for a war there, and Corey might have had enough side pressure to actually transition to a press. But yeah, unfortunately that one got stopped and he lost on fouls. And then in round 3, Devon just had complete hand control outside of straps and he pinned him. But I'd be curious to know, in round 2, when Corey had Devon in that Kings move, the camera was pointing at Devon and it looked like Devon was redlining. You know, Devon does that thing where he just shakes his whole body. It's like he's just trembling. Do you guys think that is acting? Do you guys think that is fake? When I saw that camera angle, this might sound a little bit crazy, but I thought it looked kind of fake. And I'm curious to know, do you guys think Devon fakes struggling sometimes? He fakes redlining just to make the match more entertaining? I think he definitely did when he faced Chance Shaw. I think he could have beat Chance Shaw easily if he wanted to, but for entertainment's sake, he made that match close. And I almost got the feeling that he did something similar in this match, but I don't know. Just let me know what you think of that. Let's move on to the very last match of the night, the main event, John Brzenk versus Yoshinobu Kanai. So I picked Yoshi to win this one, obviously after seeing what he did to Todd Hutchings and seeing the injuries that John's been dealing with in the past few years. I just didn't think John would have enough side pressure to be able to transition to a press, and I turned out to be completely correct. Pretty much after every go, John was able to establish dominant hand control, and he was able to hit sideways, but every time he tried to transition to a press, Yoshi was able to bring him back to center, and then from there, John just had to give up. Unfortunately, John was just never able to climb over Yoshi's hand to make that transition to a press a little bit easier, kind of like how Armies did to Michael Todd in their recent match. But in round 3, John tried to engage in the hook. He went full side pressure, tried to cup in for the hook, and you could tell that John was in a ton of pain, and I believe John actually ended up taking Yoshi's hand, but then Yoshi was able to transition into a press and get the win. So although John did lose this match, I thought it was actually a very good showing for him, and especially considering the fact that he was and is dealing with a ton of injuries. He's got a messed up shoulder, he's got a messed up lower back. I thought this was a really good performance for him, and if it is in fact his last performance, well done, John. Thank you for everything you've done for the sport. It was good to have you. But guys, I don't think this was John's last match. I think after he gets his lower back fused together and he's off for a year, I think he'll be back. So no worries there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good night. Bye.